RP subject. This semester is all about Arnis. I wonder how we could do it while we are still in the middle of pandemic. I expect that it would be a hassle for us since we have no space in our house to do our activity. But despite that, we made our best to do our requirements outside our house. And back when I were a grade 8 maybe, we had our Arnis, and that is another thing that comes to my mind, and was being interesting for me. So in this course, I just look forward to it, and that I will still find RP interesting.
When I found out that Arnis will be RPA this semester, the first thing that came to my mind was how we will do it, because we are in the midst of pandemic. At the same time, we are not allowed to go out. So I'm worried how I will be able to do it in an online setup. But on the other hand, I'm interested to learn Arnis as my new physical activity, because even though we already tackled it during my junior high school days, I am not that familiar when it comes to right position, right stances, and right techniques, and how we will be able to perform it well. So I'm really looking forward when I found out that Arnis will be RPA this semester.
It came to my mind when I found out that Arnis is our topic for a whole semester. I have great advantage because I can use it for myself. I have a lot of value to learn because what we are going to study is about Arnis. That we can use things as self-defense. Exciting, but there's is nervous because it is new for us, because we do not know how we can execute the setup to learn Arnis. But if you want, you can do it, because there is nothing difficult to do if you like what you do in life. And it comes to my mind is I realize that Arnis is good for a student like us, because it can use in the right way.
When I got to know that the topic is all about Arnis, I already knew that it's all about self-defense. And it's going to be fun because I've seen some student last year before the pandemic, they are performing the different techniques of Arnis. So I thought myself that this will be fun because learning different technique can also be helpful as a self-defense.
What comes to my mind is it is going to be tough for this sem, because before I often see a lot of students performing Arnis moves in school. Um, that's why in my perspective, it is going to be difficult for me. And also I'm worried on what will be the result of my performance that I will do on this subject, because I'm a slow learner when it comes to learning some physical moves like dance or even Arnis.
So, basically, unang pumasok sa isip ko nung nalaman ko ang Arnis will be the subject for the PE this semester. Siyempre nagulat ako and na-excite kasi alam naman natin yung situation ngayon is learning virtually, and ang Arnis must be taught face to face para mas ma-improve yung learning ng estudyante. Pero I'm glad that ito yung naging subject this semester. So kasi I get the chance to learn this kind of activity or this subject, this topic in PE virtually. So yun, na-excite talaga ako.
When I found out that this subject it was about Arnis, I thought it was impossible to do it because it's online. But then I realized that there's a way. If there's a will, there's a way. So somehow I managed to understand the basic steps, the stances, the strikes, all of the techniques. It was easier, but it would be much easier if it's in face to face and you have a partner to do it. It was, but still the subject about the Arnis was still fun, and I'm glad that I learned about Arnis this semester.
As I said earlier, we have no space in our house to do our activities, so that is one problem that I face, but then I said I've done it because I made a way. And second is that since I went to our province before, I left my tea uniform and even, of course, my Army stick. So for me to be able to accomplish the things that we are asked to do, I made a way. So I borrowed an harness to my friend and even pants and t-shirt. So yes, lastly is my internet connection. Since there's a weak internet connection in our place, um, it I find it hard to pass all the requirements that we need to pass.
The problems that I mostly encounter in doing the different activity that was given to us is not enough space where I will be performing, because I am having a hard time to find a right area where I am comfortable to perform and execute the given activity. And the other problem is learning the basic stances of activity, because it will take a long time for me to learn that stances. So that's why I encounter some struggles in executing the stances of some activity, and that's why I sometimes got confused on how to do it. But the good thing is I was able to overcome that struggles that I encountered.
For many problems faced because I cannot easily memorize the step immediately and I have many weakness in using of harness because I don't take advantage to do the things that need to be done in activities. Even if it's difficult, but still the end up doing. In our house that is there is a way. Second, positioning the quality of bids with extra points if the quality is good. Third, motion because it's hard for me to do such things because my my body is hurts quickly. Fourth, with the stress of doing it all at once, but now I can say that it's all worth it because of the some things that can motivate me to do and finish it.
The dilemma that I encountered when I do activities related to Arnis is the space we have here in our house. It is narrow and it makes me uncomfortable because there is a possibility that I can hit some of the furniture here instantly. I can perform the Arnis outside of our house because there's a car park outside, and there's a time that I will have to wait for the car to leave so I can perform the Arnis.
The problem that I encountered when doing some activities was finding and finding and adjusting the camera view that suitable for the particular earnest moves. And also because of the limited place that I have in my house, I couldn't execute some earnest moves better. And another problem is I always wait for my turn if someone is using our living room. That affects my time for submission. because that is the only place that I can record my Arnis video.
Mostly ang nagiging problems ko as a student when doing our activities is mostly in the space or in the place where I will demonstrate the given activity. Yun lang ang main problem na na-encounter ko when doing activities. Pero as a leader and as the one who will edit and compile the outputs of our members, ang na-encounter kong problema dito is yung time management sa pag-edit and yung pagpasa ng mga members ko ng output nila sa akin para ma-edit ko na. And yun lang naman ang na-encounter kong problema.
I don't have much any problems in doing my activities or the outputs of doing the activities. But if I would recall some of them, it would probably be the footsteps. It was one of the hardest part of my activity. Even no matter what I do to practice, it would always confuse me on where to put the foot or how the foot should position to, or mostly the footings. But at the end, I always get it.
As a student, based on my experience, the strategies that I apply or that I execute are my skills of memorizing and being able to apply what I should do physically. Since we have no many physical activities here compared to what we are supposed to do on the face-to-face basis, we needed to still use our skills mentally and not just physically by memorizing the stances and strikes, even what are those steps in order. So those are the skills that I applied in this curriculum.
When the task was introduced to us, the first thing that I do is watch the video demonstration that was provided to us and become familiar with the techniques which I will use to execute the skills required in the task. The next thing that I do is, while playing the video demonstration, I will imitate it so that I can memorize the stances easily. And lastly, I will look for a good location where I will be comfortable performing the given task, because I assume that being comfortable with the activity and the environment would probably result in a better execution of the task.
As a student, I made the strategy to be diligent in everything. Even if you are not good at all, you will learn even if not as fast. I just did my best to fast because I also like what I do. How I do is watch carefully the videos in the presentation and PDF file in the modules so that I can easily master everything that we need to be done and to be able to pass on this subject. I just need to be interested in the topics that we learn so much not to be difficult for me at all.
As a student, since I don't know the basic and different techniques about Arnis, I tend to search and watch videos on YouTube as my instruction. The video presentation or demos on the canvas are also a big help in order to execute the skill needed in each and every activity. Is I watch tutorial first. Also, I search different techniques to make the activity an easy one for me. I study as well as apply the teaching given by our educator in modules that also made possible for me to accomplish various skills needed in these activities in PE.
my strategy is I'm making some notes to remember things that will help me to improve in my Arnis. Or I just have to remember some moves that I didn't get during the meeting. And also to make that better, I'll just focus on that move until I perform it well. And sometimes if I have free time, I'm I focus on that move so that when presenting it in learning activity, I can execute it better.
So, as a student, I have many ways how to execute the certain activity properly, and I use the strategy of syempre practice muna, like 1 to 2 hours I practice the certain activity for the perfect demonstration of the task. And before I practice, I stretch, I exercise, kasi syempre part of the routine yun eh, para maiwasan yung certain misfortunes, or syempre what do you call this, sprains, para maiwasan yung mga accidents na pwedeng mangyari when performing the harness. So basically yun lang, I practice then do the proper routine when demonstrating the certain activity given in the subject.
My strategy is time managing or time management. It would always take me a day or two to actually get the steps or doing the activity. Then it will take another hours to master the whole thing without any mistakes. So the video would be, or the activity will be clean, and the performance will be smooth as demonstrated by the teachers.
The lesson that I think I can use in the future is that since I know that doing an arnis is an advantage for us, because I agree that it could use for self-defense. So having the idea of how to do the stances, the arnis, I will be able to protect myself, and that is how I could use it in the future. So I believe that if we can do the stances and the strikes in the arnis, we can also be able to apply those steps using a different weapon to hold to protect ourselves.
The lesson that I've learned in this semester PE subject is how to perform the different stances and techniques of the arnis. Those learnings that I got, I will probably use it as a self-defense, and maybe in college I will apply it, because I discovered that some university offered arnis as one of their physical activities. And if in case I'll encounter again the lesson of arnis, it will be easier for me to perform it because I already had an overview and experience with it. On the other hand, I can apply it as a self-defense because I learned how to execute the right positions of each strike and stances, but I should always remember that it is also important to be aware and be careful in executing it.
I learned not to give up even if the tasks that I can use in my future are difficult, because you don't have to give up of your life if you want to successful for your future. I also learned every step in this subject, because you can finish and you can get to the end if you don't study it hard, and you can achieve for your future if you rush your tasks. It was a lesson for me that I need from beginning before you get what you want. Like, if you want a high score, is you have to work it hard. It has been a lesson for me that even if hard, if you want you can find a way to get what you want in life.
I learned to manage my time properly and also to make use of my own surrounding. As you could notice in my previous video, I did experience difficulties because the activities required space and my home is not that kind of spacious. I also learned different techniques in Arnis and I'm glad that I get to learn these sports even though it is done online. And as I said earlier, Arnis can be used as a self-defense. And I learned that even if you don't really do well in using Arnis like a pro, you can still use this to protect yourself. Even if you only know the basic and different techniques, it is still a big help, especially to us students. That's all. Thank you.
I learned was teaching our needs for us students are like preserving and at the same time resurrecting the lost martial arts of our country, and also its importance for self-defense. I know that this semester it is just a bit of knowledge about our needs, but still in the future, if possible, I will teach it to my relatives about what I've learned in this subject. And through this, I might gain some new knowledge about Ernest.
So, ang lessons na natutunan ko this semester sa subject ng Arnis is basically how to use Arnis as a self-defense. Kasi alam naman natin na when we heard Arnis, ang unang pumapasok na sa isip natin is martial arts and self-defense. So, yun ang main na natutunan ko this semester about Arnis is how to use it as a self-defense. And this will help you really in the future. It's a huge help for me, syempre, kasi self-defense yan eh.
Lesson learned. Arnis has a long history, which is interesting to how was Arnis discovered, and Arnis can be a great self-defense for me. Actually, I have heard about Arnis, but I never really much pay attention to it because I thought it would be a hard subject. But this semester, when our PE teacher taught us this, I thought it changed my mind that the basic steps are just simple and easy to remember. So it would be a great advantage for me when practicing all the time.